All right. Next game, Washington to Philadelphia. Jamie, play the game. Sum this game up in 7 words or less.
Start all Eagles. Sit Curtis Samuel.
Okay. Start all Eagles. Does that include Devontae Smith?
Number 3 receiver.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So let's talk about that because there are some big weeks left, right? But we're just getting very few pass attempts from Jalen Hurts. 25 to 28 pass attempts in 4 of his last 5 games, and Devontae Smith just does not do well when that is the case. So earlier you guys debated Smith versus McLaurin. Well, you didn't really debate it, but you ranked them differently. I think, Dave, you like McLaurin better. Oh, maybe Jamie, you
factor in Gibson. I like Gibson the best.
My bad.
I like Gibson, McLaurin, Smith. I think Dave likes the receivers over Gibson.
I do.
Okay. So you both like McLaurin over Smith.
We do.
Yeah. I mean, this is an interesting one because McLaurin had a great game against them.
Smith had a monster game.
Yeah, Smith had an even better game.
But that was the squeaky wheel game, though.
For Devontae Smith, yeah. Well,
yeah, that was prior to that game was Nick Sirianni talking him up.
And McLaurin kind of took Darius Slay to school in that game, but he doesn't that was surprising because last year he didn't do well against the Eagles. He's got a history of not doing great against great corners. So
I don't love McLaurin in this game, but I think at least you trust that if they're chasing points, the target's probably a little bit safer for him than they are for Smith. Because if the Eagles don't necessarily feature Smith early and they're up big, it's probably minimal production coming his way.
Okay, let's do McLaurin. Would you start McLaurin or Deontay Johnson?
McLaurin. I'm not starting Deontay Johnson.
It's close in PPR, though, because the targets will be close.
In full PPR, would you start McLaurin or Rondale Moore if Kyler Murray plays?
McLaurin.
Rondale.
McLaurin or Josh Palmer?
Palmer.
I believe I have Palmer ranked higher. You want one more reason for optimism with McLaurin? His target share with Taylor Heineke is almost 30%.
Yeah, no, it's excellent. All right, Devontae Smith or Darnell Mooney?
Mooney.
I have Mooney one spot higher than Smith, but they're both in that boom bust high end number 3 receiver Gabe Davis range. Both ahead of Gabe Davis, by the way.
Right. And we know Goddard, Hurts, AJ Brown must start, sitting Logan Thomas, probably trying to sit Curtis Samuel and Heineke. So that brings us to Antonio Gibson, who, had a bad game, but there's big opportunity here. What's the updated stat? With Jordan Davis off the field, the Eagles are allowing now 5.86 yards per carry to running backs. Unbelievably bad. All right, Jamie. So you guys have Gibson 20th. I think Dave has him 27th. Is that right? Or are those old rankings? No, 24th. 21st for Jamie, 24th for Dave, and Heath has Gibson 19th. Jonathan Taylor or Antonio Gibson?
Taylor.
There's more upside with Taylor if he's Taylor.
Yeah, but Gibson, I mean, you can see a lot of upside, right?
Huge.
Yeah. So talk to me about how you're approaching him.
Well, I think first off, they got to get back to throwing the ball. Last week was a little strange that they got away from that, but the Eagles don't necessarily give up a lot of production to pass catching running backs, aside from what they did to McKissick earlier in this matchup. He scored against them. Gibson did. He was more the primary running back at that point. But I think again, when you play out game scripts, this is the game script that you like for him. Eagles up big, him chasing points. We saw that 2 weeks ago when he had 7 catches. Prior to that, he had the first 2 games with Taylor Heineke, 10 catches, and he scored 2 touchdowns through the air. So it's an opportunity against a run defense that's a little bit weaker and a game script that should be favorable. So I think he can, get to that 12 to 14 PPR point range without scoring. And if he scores, he'll have a big production.
If Zeke plays, you starting Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, or Antonio Gibson?
That's a good one.
I would start Gibson probably over Pollard in PPR. Zeke over both. Cowboys don't catch
Zeke over both.
Zeke would be number 1 for you?
Zeke over Gibson and Pollard, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I can see that in non-PPR, but I think I'd flip it in PPR. I might go Gibson first in PPR. I don't want to say that he's going to totally suck. I think the floor is 10 PPR points. I think that's solid. 16% target share from Taylor Heineke this year. That's good. When he's actually on the field, his target per route run rate is almost 1/3 of Heineke's throws. That's really high. It's just a matter of how much Heineke will throw to him. It's 14 targets in 3 games. It's not bad. The game script really has to go Gibson's way. And if it does, then he's got a shot to be really good. I think he's going to be their main running back. I would expect him to play like 55, 60% of the snaps. He just has to be effective with the touches that he gets. Half PPR, non PPR, I think he's easy to get away from. It's that full PPR where there's a chance he gets 5 catches and 40 yards. I think that's where it gets a little sticky. 10 to 12 PPR points.
And you're going to want to try to get away from Brian Robinson. It just doesn't really feel like the game for him. You know.
Unless they're playing with the lead.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
But it could. And that's it. And Philadelphia's DST is top 2. All right, Detroit at Chicago, your stat of the game. The Lions allow the most everything to everyone. They are awful. Dave, can you give me 7 words to describe this game?
Oh, you might play the music again, though.
I haven't played. What are you talking about?
Oh, here it comes. Now I know it's happening.
It's the game of the week, yeah. 7 words to describe it. The game of the week, yeah. Bad defenses, Detroit, Chicago. All right, Dave, you're on to my tricks. It's getting hard here. I might have to do this to Heath next week. But anyway, Detroit and Chicago is the game of the week, and I'm just expecting a lot of points, and probably a close game. So
it's gonna be a high-scoring game. There's no defense on either side. Jared Goff's gonna get you 30 fantasy points.
You have a
Justin Fields too, yeah.
You have him 9th, Jared Goff.
I do.
Am I right about that? 9th?
Yeah, I love him. I like him better than Brady. When
Whoa.
he's not pressured, he's fantastic, and it's even been that way recently. His last 3 touchdowns over the last 2 games. Not that that's like a huge selling point, but it's when he's not pressured. The Bears traded Robert Gibson. They can't get pressure on anybody. They're going to have to dial up crazy blitzes. Maybe that works out for them, but I think St. Brown has a huge game. I think Jared Goff has a very nice game, and I'm trying to trade for him in a couple of leagues just to use him for this week. I'm excited about the potential of it being a high-scoring game.
And by the way, the whole 7 words or less thing was really just a setup.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't fall for that. Yeah.
It was a bad segment. So
But the thing that you screwed up with was when you should have, when you asked me the 7 words or less, then when Dave started talking, you should have did it with the other game.
Exactly.
What other game?
I mean, it could have been this game, but
Yeah,
when
but
you said
that's the
that,
thing. I was saving it for this game. This is the
right,
game.
but you
But you were also saving it for me.
Your
And
setup
so if
was
you had
bad
asked-
because what you should have done was ask me 7 words or less, like you did, was what you told me you were going to do. And then when you, Dave, what is your thoughts? Then you should have played.
Yeah. Like you got to get more creative.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's
Yeah,
what I thought your setup was.
I should have gone to you for that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Come on, man. You gotta scheme it up a little bit.
Oh, that would have been so much better. All right, what do we do with the Lions running backs? Which is a big question mark every week, Jamie.
I think they're going to run all over the Bears. So, Jamal Williams just had a game where they won and he had 24 carries. And so I'd be very surprised if it's not a 30 carry game unless they're just getting destroyed, which I can't see that happening either. So, 30 carries is well within the range of both Swift and Williams. Williams is the guy you have to trust at this point. Swift is not a bad back end RB2 flex play. If you have both, I don't know if you want to play both, but I can see Goff being good. I don't see him to the same level Dave has it because I don't think without his weapons, he's going to be as fantastic. If there's no Reynolds without Hawkinson, I just don't think he's going to get enough numbers just from Amon-Ra St. Brown alone. So, this is a running back game for me. I think it's Williams and Swift.
A running back has run for 80 or more yards in 5 of the last 8 games, 94 or more yards in 4 of the last 8 games against the Bears. A running back scored 16 or more PPR fantasy points in 7 of the last 8 games against the Bears. So it's both teams just really struggle against the run. Well, who's the best running back in the game?
Williams.
Agreed.
Second best.
Montgomery.
You
got to ask third best.
Who's the third best?
I think it's Swift.
Fifth, yeah. Any
Fourth best.
hesitation on Amon-Ra St. Brown, who actually has kind of similar stats to Chris Godwin, like very low route depth and really only one game with a lot of yards. He's actually kind of been disappointing other than that Washington game. But any hesitation at all with Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Nope.
No, this is the perfect setup for him. Everybody's gone, and bad defense, and so this should be a game where he's back to being a target hog. And if you're buying into Jared Goff having a big game, there's no way he's having a big game without Amon-Ra St. Brown playing.
Right. I feel like he should get some end zone targets. Last week it was the tight ends getting those touchdowns. I feel like St. Brown could easily get those. And
what a big game for their family.
Oh yeah, we got the St. Brown matchup.
Yeah, remember it was week 1 or 2. They scored a touchdown within 2 seconds of each other.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Dave, you like Jared Goff. Do you like Khalif Raymond at all? He's had some big games, and Josh Reynolds not likely to play, it seems.
He's had at least 9 PPR points in 3 of his past 4, and he's had 5 catches. When did he have him? He had him in weeks, I don't know, early October, a couple games in early October. He's kind of a big play guy, and they're running out of bodies. I think Jamie's point on that is fair, that they don't have Hawkinson. They're not going to have Reynolds. So how do they stretch the field? I think they use a little bit more of Raymond in that regard. And they've got a multitude of like mediocre tight ends that they can just mix and match. 2 of them scored last week. So I wonder if they get involved when they're in the red zone. I think DeAndre Swift gets involved in the passing game more this week. He looked good when he played. He just didn't play that much. Only 25% of the snaps in the first half, only 2 snaps in the second half. I think he gets a little bit more work. I kind of like him as a borderline number 2 running back in full PPR. I think he matters. I think St. Brown gets a ton. And then I'm not starting any of the other guys, including Raymond, unless I'm desperate. But one of those guys will score too.
For the Bears, Jamie, who are the quarterbacks you're starting ahead of Justin Fields?
Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Tua.
If Josh Allen plays, Fields or Allen?
I have it ranked right now with Josh Allen playing, and he's behind those guys.
Right, he's right behind Fields. Okay,
but hold on. If Josh Allen's arm was okay, he'd be ahead of Fields, right?
If his arm was okay, but his arm is not okay. So
correct. I'm just saying, if it were, you would.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, me too.
Montgomery is an RB2, even in this great matchup. He gets about 14 to 15 carries, and
had at least 15 touches, 3 straight games.
There have been 4 games this year where the Lions have allowed multiple running backs to score double-digit PPR fantasy points. The Eagles, Commanders, Vikings, and Cowboys. So it gives you a little bit of hope for Khalil Herbert. But basically, he needs to have a big play, have a good game. Otherwise, there's a very low floor for Herbert. All right, Darnell Mooney. So Claypool didn't play much. He only ran 16 routes, I think, last week. So that's just something to keep in mind.
But it's encouraging they got 6 targets on 16 routes.
It is actually pretty encouraging. And all right.
He had a drop too, so he's right back in his Steelers form.
Mooney. I'm going to give you running backs. Mooney or Gibson?
Gibson.
Mooney
or Connor?
Mooney.
That's closer.
You like Connor over Gibson?
Yeah, I do. Ooh. I think I have Mooney higher than both those guys.
Mooney or a running back in this game? In this very game?
I'd go Jamal.
I would go Jamal. I would go Montgomery, and I would go Swift for upside over Mooney.
Since the Bears mini bye, this is their last 3 games. Mooney's target share has been 27%, 11.7 yards per catch.
Target share for this team is such a joke, though.
They're starting to throw a lot more than they did in the first 4 games.
28 times was a season high. Target share in these situations is so stupid.
I know. But 2 red zone targets. It is what it is. 2 red zone targets, 3 end zone targets. 30% of his catches have been explosive plays.
I like the thing that they did last week, though. So first game with Claypool and 28 attempts, and it was 18 of those went to Mooney, Kmet, and Claypool.
Yeah, makes sense.
Was it a third, and a third?
I mean, I don't. I know they at least all had 6. I don't know if there was one that had 7.
I'm
and one
checking right now. Mooney had 8. So 8, 6, and Claypool had 6, like you said. It's pretty good. Starting to get a little
Plenty-
concentrated in
Any
Chicago.
targets between the three. All right, Cole Kmet. Let's finish up on Cole Kmet. You guys have him as a borderline start. Heath is lower on him. You'd start Dulcich over him. You would start still Otten over Kmet.
I would start Otten over Kmet in PPR. I would start Kmet over Otten in non-PPR. He's
And
a
of course,
touchdown guy now.
Cameron Brate doesn't play, then it's easily Otten in any format.
Easily, yeah.
Gerald Everett or Kmet?
Everett.
I would start Everett in PPR. I would start Kmet in non-PPR. It's funny because his 3 touchdowns the last 2 weeks more than Everett has all season.
How about Robert Tonyan or Kmet?
Kmet.
All right.